Hello everyone. Today I'm working on my Generac Guardian 22 kilowatt generator. This is a gas powered generator, so it runs off of a gas line from the house. What I noticed is that we've got the little yellow indicator light, so when this light is green, that means there's no issues, it's running in automatic mode, ready to go. When this yellow light comes up, that means that you need to check something on the little display. So we'll get into that right now. So the first thing you're going to want to do is unlock the unit. So there's going to be two key ports on either side. You'll grab the key set that came with it, and you'll unlock those and open up the top. So we'll do that real quick here. And with both of those unlocked, you should be able to just lift the top. I have access to the control panel here. So we can see it's still in automatic mode. And it says ready to run, which means it'll still operate in this current condition. But it says service schedule A. And that's part of the maintenance for this unit. So we'll go into the owner's manual and we'll look at what Schedule A is. I'm going to put an image of this manual up on the screen for you guys, but basically I'm going to go start in section 4 in maintenance. We go to section 4 for maintenance, and then you flip over to the service schedule. You'll see Schedule Alpha or Schedule A every 2 years or 200 hours, and so that's automatically tracked by the unit. And the checks that we're going to do are check battery condition, electric light level, and start state of charge, and replace engine oil and oil filter. So I've already looked at this and I know what I need to do that, but we'll go over those items individually so that you know what you're looking at. The first instruction for the battery maintenance is to press the off button to shut down the generator. So basically you don't want the generator to be running while you have it open. So we'll go ahead and do that. Off button here, and we'll see that the screen switched to off and the service schedule alpha is still displayed. And then the next step is to remove the 7.5 amp fuse in the control panel, and so I'll show you where that is. So you can see right here there's a little cover, it's a little rubber cover, you can peel that back. It also has a label of 7.5 amp fuse on it, and you can see in here there's a 7.5 amp fuse, and then also a USB port for if you're gonna call a service tech in to do reprogramming of the control panel, they would plug in through there. So we're gonna take this 7.5 amp fuse, just pull it out, and we'll put that to the side for safekeeping. So the next instructions we have are to remove this side panel, and it says to see the side panel removal section. That's gonna be in section 2, and again I'll put it on the screen here. So the steps for that are to raise the lid, and then we'll remove this front panel here, and then there will be 2 mounting screws on the top here, both Allen key, and then there's an L bracket screw down below that we'll take a look at as well, and then you lift up and away on the panel cover, so we'll get into that. And now we have access to all 3 of our screws. So there's going to be one right here, one right here, and then if we come down to the side here, there's one right at the bottom, right here. These are all 4mm size, and so we'll grab a 4mm and take it apart. So again, a 4mm Allen wrench. We're just going to take these bolts out. There's the top 2, and then we'll go ahead and grab the bottom one there. Well, unfortunately, it looks like a previous owner of this stripped out this 4mm. So, solution for that is we're just going to take that bolt out because that's just this L bracket here. So I'll go ahead and grab a socket for that. I'll tell you what socket size it is in case your bolt is also stripped out. As I suspected, based on the metric for the other ones, this is a 10 millimeter. So I just grabbed a 10 millimeter wrench here, and we'll just undo this here. If you have a socket or wrench in there, I'll help you get it quicker. I have those. I just do it right now. You can see that the cover's starting to pull later. Alright, that's loose. And now we can pull this cover away. So again, you want to pull up first and then out and away so that you don't break off these little tabs here and here. You want to break those off if you just crank back on it. So again, I'm just going to set this to the side. So now we have access to the side here. You can see up here, here are your indicator lights. Here's that key that we were keyhole that we were looking at earlier. And then the next step is to disconnect the white battery charger cable. And there's a figure for that. That cable is this right here. So I'm going to disconnect that. There's just two tabs right there and there. Then you'll notice that the lights also went out because this battery is what is powering the unit and it's not in operation. So the battery is now disconnected from the unit. And again, my battery is in pretty good condition. If you had some corrosion, you'd want to clean off those terminals and make sure that put a little dielectric grease on there. That'll help prevent any corrosion buildup, checking the tightness and all of that. And then it also talks about if you had an unsealed battery, checking the fluid level. I am not going to be doing that on this. I don't believe this is an unsealed battery. So my next step is going to be using my multimeter here. I have a fancier multimeter. You don't need something this crazy. You can get really cheap ones from Harbor Freight that work just as well. I just use this for other things. But if you're just trying to measure voltage, especially a DC voltage right here, not a big deal. So I'm going to select a DC measurement on my multimeter, and I'm just going to go from the positive post to the negative post. And we're just going to measure the voltage. And we can see that the battery is sitting at 13.32 volts. This is a 12 volt battery. You should expect a 12 volt battery to have approximately 13 volts when it's just sitting idle and not being used. So that means that my battery is in good condition and ready to go. If your battery was reading lower, you can try recharging it, or it may be time to just replace one in general. And so you can do that at like an AutoZone or Advanced Auto, whatever auto parts store, and they'll help you find the size that you need and that sort of thing. Okay, so before we replug our white charger wire down there, we're going to reinstall our 7.5 amp fuse. So again, we're just going to push it in to the connection here. And then you'll get a blinking light. So it's gonna come back online here. It's gonna go through its startup procedure. So fuel selection, natural gas. Cold smart start, yes, I like that. The hours we're gonna select is 13, which is 24 hours, so 1 p.m. The minutes is gonna be, let me check my time here. 132, so we're going to cycle that up to 32. Current month is August the 24th, year 2024. And then it's giving us a warning, charger missing AC, which is the connection that we're looking for. So we'll go back down there, we'll plug that wire back in, and then that error message should clear. Okay, so like I said, we're going to take our wires, we're going to plug that back in. And then with that plugged in, we'll come up top here, and we'll see that it's just switched off, and then it's going to cycle through the hours of protection, which basically means how long the system's been online. for the house, which is 64,000 hours. You'll also notice that the original Schedule A setup has cleared, so it's not giving us the Schedule A check anymore, but we'll look into resetting that at the end of all of our maintenance here. We're done with the battery maintenance. We're going to move on to the oil change. So we're going to be doing the changing oil and oil filter out of section 4. Again, I'll put it up on the screen. And the first step here is going to be pressing the manual button of the control panel, and that's going to start the engine, and we're going to run it until it's thoroughly warmed up. I'm going to run it for like a minute or so, and then after that minute, you'll press the control panel off button to shut off the engine. So 2 things to keep in mind here. Number 1, I'm not going to leave my panels just laying against the side of it, so I'll move those out of the way. And then also, this is a gas engine, so it's going to be loud, so if you have some hearing protection, go ahead and put that in as well. Alright, so I got my earplugs in, and like I said, I'm going to just press the manual button. Alright, and now it's switched back to off. Another thing that popped up on the screen is when it first starts, it gives a little warming up indication, and then it just shows that the running indication like I was displaying earlier. So now that the system's warmed up and the oil is warmed up, we'll go ahead and start draining it for the oil change. I've had issues with in the past is if you forget to plug in the 7.5 amp fuse before you go to try and start it, and when you press manual, it'll try to crank, and then it'll give you a RPM sensor fail, and that basically means that like you're not getting power to that part of the unit, so it can't detect the RPM sensor, and it's not going to crank if it doesn't have that. So if you get that warning, again, check your fuse, make sure it's installed in the proper location, and then go ahead and restart it and try again. That's usually the issue associated with that, unless you actually have an issue with your RPM sensor. Okay, for these next steps, in terms of safety protection, I recommend getting some safety goggles, and then I'm also going to put on some nitrile gloves just so that I don't get oil all over me. So the next step of the procedure is letting it cool for a few minutes, which in my case it has, and then removing the lid if you haven't already. We've already removed the covers and everything, and then we're going to hold the oil drain hose, which is this retaining clip. We're going to disconnect that, so it's just a little sliding piece, and that oil hose is going to drop down. And then we're going to remove this oil cap, or this oil cap here. It's orange. Just give you a closer look at what that looks like. And you want to have your oil pan ready for this. So I'm going to go grab that. Okay, so now I have the oil pan right here. I'm going to take the cap, and you want to have it going below the height of the generator. So mine's kind of on a supportive block that keeps it up off the ground, and also the way that my driveway is leveled, it helps. But ideally, I want to try and keep it as low as possible so that the oil is draining down. So I'm going to undo this cap. It just twists off, and then I'm going to drain the oil. And then our next step is going to be to reinstall that cap and then put it back into the retaining clip. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that dripping. We're going to twist the cap back on, and then we'll go ahead and put it back in the retaining clip here. You just slide it through that hole there, and then that just is held up right there. And then I've just taken my oil pan and poured it into one of my waste oil containers. If you don't have containers laying around, I would just wait until you add the new oil, and then just take what's in the oil pan and put it into your old oil containers, and then you can take those to pretty much any auto parts store, and they'll have some form of oil disposal service for free there, and you just dump the oil into there, and then it's properly disposed of. So for the next step, we're going to remove this old oil filter. This oil filter is what the previous owner installed. It's a Fram oil filter. I will show you the part number here. So you can see that oil filter. It's a PH7317, or Papa Hotel 7317. Again, I did not install this, so I don't know what the compatibility is, but I did order a compatible oil filter from Amazon, specifically a Generac oil filter, and so when we get to that point, I'll talk to you about the parts numbers for that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about basically how you identify what type of oil you need and what type of oil filter. So in your manual, you'll find a specifications page. It'll tell you what the oil capacity is, so approximately 1.9 quarts. In addition, the procedure for replacing the oil directs you to the C engine oil requirements, which should just be on the previous page, and you'll see that it tells you what service class of oil you need. That's not really super important. And then the required oil, which is synthetic SAE 5W30 for all temperature ranges. So I have two 1-quart bottles of SAE 5W30. It's this Pennzoil here. You don't have to go with Pennzoil, whatever you want to work with. This is a synthetic blend oil. It should be fine. And then in terms of the actual oil filter itself, again, I'll show this on the screen. If you go to the replacement parts section, you can see that it lists the oil filter number, which is 070185 Echo for all the way from the 9 kilowatt to the 22 kilowatt options. And so I went on Amazon and I ordered one of those. It comes in the genuine Generac oil filter box. It's got a plastic seal on the bottom, and you can see 070185E, and then that S basically just means it's compatible with synthetic oil. Doesn't change the actual part number that much. You'll see that on a lot of oil filters, because when they were originally produced, they didn't make a compatible with synthetic oil, basically because of the rubber gasket there. There was some issues with vehicles and small engines in the past, so that part number also compatible, interchangeable. So when you go to remove the oil filter, you should expect some oil to drip out. So I'm going to preemptively go ahead and put down a rag just to kind of try and keep that off of the engine. And then it shouldn't be too tight, it should be just about hand tight. So I'm going to try and, yep. And you don't really want to crank down on it with like a filter wrench or anything like that. So I'm just going to take this off like this. Just twisting it off, being careful not to damage the threads. Don't pull before it has released from the threads. All right, and then you can see we got a little bit of oil drainage there, but that's okay. I'm just gonna sop all that up. Just try and keep it off the case. So the next step of the procedure will be putting the new oil filter in. And so you wanna go ahead and take this plastic cover off, or if yours has a different cover, whatever it is. And then you're going to want to take some of the new oil you have and go ahead and lubricate the rubber ring there. So I'm going to crack open this oil here. And then my preferred method, if your fingers are long enough and skinny enough, is to stick your pinky down into the oil. Set that down over here. then just go around and coat the edge there with your oil. Just want to make a good sealing surface. It doesn't need to be like dripping by any means, but just enough that there's a coating there. And then you also want to make sure that you check the original surface so that if the rubber ring from the other one got stuck or anything like that, just want to clean it off. Make sure there's no debris there that would prevent it from sealing properly. And then you'll take the new oil filter and just very carefully, be careful not to cross thread, just slowly spin it on lightly, and then it'll seat. And then once you get it tightened down, it says go an additional 3/4 turn. I'm basically doing it until it feels snug. So right about there. You don't, like I said, don't need to crank down on it. That rubber seal just needs to collapse a little bit and squeeze against the sealing surface. So now that's been replaced. And so now we're going to refill the engine with new oil. So the rated capacity, like we said earlier, is 1.9 quarts. So I have 2 quarts available, and we'll go ahead and get started with that. We have the oil filter on. The next step is going to be to fill the system. So you have your dipstick here, and you want to clean it off, make sure that you can get a good measurement when you're ready. Like we said earlier, the capacity for this engine is 1.9 quarts, so a little less than 2 quarts. But we're going to basically, I'm going to fill it with 1 quart, then go to about a half a quart, and then I'm going to start checking the dipstick level to make sure I'm not overfilling it. I've seen some discussion online where the 1.9 quarts might actually be a little bit over full for this system. Like I said, we'll figure out what it actually is, but we'll just start with the full quart, half quart, and then start going from there. So you got your oil fill here, so you're just going to take this and twist it off. And this is just on the overhead valve cover. Go ahead and check that O-ring, make sure it doesn't look like cracked or anything like that. This one looks good. And then if you want to, you can use a funnel like this, or if you just wanted to pour it directly in there, that's fine. Because of this bar, I like to use the funnel to fill. And then, like I said, we'll just go with 1 quart to start, and then about a half quart after that, and we'll see where that gets us. Probably should have poured this the other way. That's the way these bottles are designed. It's fine because I got the funnel. Doesn't glug like that if you pour it the other way. Okay. So that's 1 quart down. Go ahead and open up our 2nd quart here. And then the in terms of measurement of like, well, what is a half quart from this? You can kind of just feel it by weight, but there's also some indicators on the side here for what's half. So you go all the way from those markings there. So I'm gonna do it right around that 500 milliliter mark, or a little bit before. I'll pour it the right way this time. See how it doesn't glug that time. Okay. A little bit more. Alright, went a little bit over a half quart, but that's alright. That's better. move the camera over so you can see. So I'm gonna take the dipstick out here. Looks like there might be a little bit of level on that. So you want to clean it off first, put it back in, take it out again. It looks like we're just at the bottom, so I'm going to give it a little bit more. And you also want to give it some time to settle as well. If you pull it too quickly, it won't have stabilized in the engine because it's kind of a viscous fluid. But we'll check it now. And it can be kind of hard to see with new oil where the level is sitting. One of the tricks you can do is if you see a film kind of over those two holes. So the bottom hole is that add where you should be adding oil. The top hole is when it's full. So if you see oil sitting in one of those holes, you either know it's too low or it's not high enough. So like I said, just letting it settle so you can get a good indication. And the other thing too is, even if you do overfill it, you can just drain out a little bit from your same drain point before, so not a big deal. Okay, so that last one looks like it's at the right level, and I still have probably about 1/10 of a quart left in my oil there, so 1.9 seems pretty accurate for filled to the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my funnel out, make sure that's not dripping anywhere. Go ahead and put the cap back in for our oil filter. Or sorry, our oil fill, excuse me. And then our next step will be to actually run the engine for a little bit. Okay, so our next step, like I said, is to start the engine and run it for 1 minute. And then after that 1 minute, we'll go ahead and shut it off. And while that's going on, we'll be checking for leaks at basically all the points that we disturbed. So the cap, the oil filter, the oil fill line, oil fill cap. I don't expect any leaks there, but we'll see. Again, hearing protection recommended, and make sure the area is clear. Alright, and then the next step is to let the engine sit for 5 minutes, and then we will check the oil level and make sure it's not over full. The reason why you're doing this is basically that oil filter starts empty. And so as oil is pumped through it, it will fill up and it will use some of the original oil capacity that you filled it with. So it's important to check the oil level after to verify that you're not under spec, but also not over spec where you overfilled the engine. So we'll do that in 5 minutes. All right, it's been a good 5 minutes now, so we're gonna go ahead and check the oil levels. So that first pull, go ahead and wipe it off, and then go ahead and get a fresh measurement. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but we're full right up to that first dot there, I don't know if you can see the film, and not really any much more. So that is perfect oil level for this. And so that means our oil change is complete. And now it's just restoring it back to where it was. All right, so now our last step here is to just put all the covers back on. I'm gonna start with the side cover, and it's basically putting things back together in the reverse order that we originally did. So start with that. Again, you want to match up those holes with the posts. Set it down in there. And then I'm going to start with that bracket down there. Again, reminder, you're not necessarily taking out this screw down here if your side screw is not stripped like mine. But I'm just going to put this back in there. Again, don't want to cross thread anything, so I'm going to hand start it. And then it helps if you hold the cover on as well. Alright, now I got that snug down, we're going to do the two up top again. So we got these two again, just 4 millimeters on the Allen key like we did before. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the front panel. Same thing as before, we're just doing the reverse operation. So get those posts lined up, and then just slide it in, and then make sure it's in place. And then we'll do our last checks here. The thing I like to do is check the maintenance schedule. So we're in the system menu right now, so I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. Takes me back to the main menu, and then I will cycle through to submenus, and then I will go to maintenance, M-A-N-T period, and you can see maintenance, run hours, maintenance log scheduled. So I'm going to click on maintenance log, and you can see here that when we reset the system, when we disconnected and reconnected the battery, that on the 24th at 13:30, schedule alpha serviced. So that means that we completed our alpha service maintenance. Then if we go back to the main menu and look at scheduled, it says inspect battery and next maintenance at 199 run hours, or 8/24/2025. So it'll tell you either if you hit the 200 run hours or if you hit the date for the next maintenance period. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to just go back to the system menu. Just hitting escape to get back to that main menu, and then enter to get to the system menu. And now we're just going to set it back to auto. And now it says ready to run, and then it cycles through those hours of protection. Then we'll go down here, and we'll see that our light is now only green, and the yellow has cleared because we've done our maintenance. If you check this light too early before you set it back into auto, it will read red. So if it's in off, I'll set it back to off real quick. See, it's red because it's not in automatic protection, but when it's back in auto, it's green. And so that's a good indicator that you got everything done. Last step is go ahead and close up your lid, and then go ahead and lock up on either side. Alright, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, let me know in the comments, or if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Again, I'm using the 22 kilowatt system, so if you have a different kilowatt system, I might not know as much information about it, but I might be able to steer you in the right direction. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.